Greetings. Last time salutations. Last time we talked, I was telling you about uh, us leaving the auditorium and seeing that wall of names, missing posters that was plastered for a city block wide. With none of the phone numbers taken because they weren't missing. Uh, so we hooked up, so I got back in touch with the National Guard guy, Air National Guard Sergeant, and I'm like, just get us to the site and let us help out there. So he agreed to that, and we're going. And the first thing we saw, we walked through a storefront, or the rear of a store. And we were walking, and there was a fire truck, one of the ladder trucks, two-piece ladder truck in the store, which again is, wait a minute, this isn't right at all. There should never be a fire truck inside of a store. And we're walking through, and that candy apple red, that bright, vibrant red on the back of the truck slowly faded into this concrete, dust-covered monstrosity as we got closer and closer to the front of the truck. At the front of the truck, it looked like a giant had taken his fist and just punched the truck in and ripped off the cab top. Everything was that color inside of the truck, that concrete, almost beige dust, and I could not understand for the life of me what the hell happened to make that happen. As we came out, exiting through the building, there were cabs, crushed, UPS trucks, mail trucks, every type of service truck that you could imagine, regular cars, crushed, stacked neatly on top of one another. And again, I'm just trying to figure out what the hell went on here. And that would be the descent into a world of suffering, because mind is amazing. Your mind is absolutely fantastic. But the one part of the mind is, like I'm speaking to you now, your mind can fill in the blank on, you can't see my left arm, but over here, there's not I don't have a pit viper or a piece of lettuce for the rest of my arm. It's a arm. So your mind can fill in the gaps. I have both legs. I have 2 feet. Your mind can fill in the gaps because it's familiar with what you're looking at, unless you pan down to this amazing surprise and you're like, haha, I have tank treads for legs, or I have 2 canes or something like that. Then you're like, okay, that's different. However, and I wasn't expecting that. However, that's okay. The expectation was a cityscape, bustling with traffic and things like that. Everything I've seen on MTV and from all the videos and everything else like that. And while that was the case, there was this somber mood, this backdrop of quiet. And the guy is talking to us and telling us stuff. I'm sure it was pertinent information, but that's when it finally started to really set in on me where we were going, because I was able to look up and see almost like a Tetris landscape from the game Tetris. Square, giant rectangle, another square, rectangle, rectangle, various sizes. Then these two mountainous piles of debris. Almost like a landfill in the middle of a city, and it was on fire. It was smoking, and something is completely wrong, because the expectation was cityscape, not two gigantic mountains of pain and suffering. So that was more than alarming to me. And the closer we got to see more collapsed buildings, more equipment, more men, more women, cadaver dogs, firefighters, policemen, other service members. We got to see Mayor Giuliani and his entourage. And then we got close enough to where the skeleton of the one of the towers, the tower that we were in front of, was still standing. And we got right there, and Chris was just floored. And I could see clearly through this husk that what I was witnessing wasn't right, because I had no perception of what the building looked like before. I just saw this concrete facade that was still standing, a couple stories tall. I had no clue, no base of reference for what I was viewing. And you heard the air brakes filling up from all the dump trucks, taking the debris away. Very little talking, because it was like a grave. And we just stood there in shock. Not saying much to one another, because we don't know what to say. The television, the reports and things like that talked about these pockets of survivors. And once you saw the debris, once you saw the wreckage, the carnage, I couldn't fit a credit card into that debris field. You couldn't. That dust had settled around everything, and it was inches of this fine like silt that was on everything. It would be on our boots, on our uniforms. It was on every piece of equipment that was working there. Broken glass. And one of the most insane things I'd ever seen, papers, office papers, business papers, everywhere. But not a single piece of whole paper. It was always burned. They were littered everywhere, but it was always burned on the fringes. All that paper had meaning to it. All that paper contained life and business, supply chain, holding historical doctrines of transactions past and future transactions. Those were the things that became so confounding to me. Because in that carnage, the humanity of it all starts to set in. And you start to witness, because I got awards and things like that all on paper. And there had to be a record of it. So those things were in there. Someone's exemplary performance, also someone's admonishment. You've been to work late X amount of times, things like that. It was all gone. And then the human beings that were associated with all that were mostly gone. Because with the buildings being on fire and hit where they were, it made an impasse for the people trying to get out. There's also people who are handicapped trying to get out, and it slowed the whole process down. Those people never had a chance. And it was so fast and so violent that across the street, a piece of debris the size of a semi-truck cab had fallen through this beautiful skylight that overlooked, it was this, I guess, restaurant that overlooked the water. And we took a picture in there. Got yelled at because we weren't wearing our hard hats around there and stuff could have fallen on our head. But it had fallen through the top of the building. And again, your mind is filling in blanks of how powerful the destruction had to be. I never seen with my own eyes places that were bombed out by 2,000-pound JDAMs or any other bomb for that matter. But this was that through and through. The collapsing of those buildings and hearing that the architect blamed himself because he didn't make it stronger, etc. There's no way he could have planned for a terrorist attack on the buildings when he built them. Because if that was the case, they would have been underground, fortified bunkers, not above ground. But you get to see how people struggled and do the what if game. Then all the arguments I got to hear about how it was an inside job and the economy was tanking the week before, so therefore we had to have this distraction and all this other kind of stuff. I can't stand that. Because regardless of what the economic situation was, those people were innocent and they died. The most heartbreaking thing I got to see, and I think I've alluded to this before, was just last year, a news reporter stopped and I think I've told you this before, but I'm going to speak about it again because it bothers me. A news reporter stopped an 18, 19-year-old kid, maybe 19 or 20-year-old kid, and asked him about what do you think about the attacks of September 11th. And he was like, I don't. And then his next response was, we had it coming. And America got what it deserved, etc. Then he looked at the reporter's face and realized he had overstepped. And he started trying to retract some of his statements a little bit, but not as much. And you really get to see how bad things were from a different perspective. There was a bee. You've flown in here. I need you to fly out of here. But get out of here, man. There's no place for you. So, for Pearl Harbor, I would never go up to a survivor of Pearl Harbor and tell them, hey, we had it coming. I would never do that. Ever do that. Never go up to the people who were getting taken off the roof of when the NVA regulars were taking over Saigon, and be like, you had it coming. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't go to some place that had experienced loss of life on a grand scale and be like, you have it coming. But we live in a different time where the illusion of safety has become reborn in today's youth. And that same illusion leads to a relaxed sense of vigilance. And that becomes a problem. The other thing that gets me, one of my coworkers recently, there was an event where a kid who had graduated had beef with the other kid at school, and so he was going to go up and solve this problem with a bag full of handguns. Jumped the fence, infiltrated the school, and was caught thankfully before anything bad happened. They were on lockdown. My friend was very distraught, obviously, because the sheriffs that were out, they finally caught the kid, but the kid disseminated guns to innocent kids, all who are now going to become criminals in this fiasco. And the problem is, my buddy was shook up. We were all shook up. The kids are just like, it's par for the course. That is a problem. The things I witnessed while I was up there were so damning to me. It was one thing in particular that bothered the hell out of me. It was a mix of JP8, which is jet fuel, and concrete. It's a smell that's never left my nostrils. And as we infiltrated the site more, we got closer to the morgue, it was JP8, concrete, and dead bodies. And that hurt. It's something that, again, has never left my nostrils. Now, again, I look at things differently. I have freedom of choice. I experienced something horrible, just like Mr. Love back there. Now, what am I going to do? Some days it envelops me, catches me completely off guard, and does everything it can to hold me down. And sometimes I fail. There were days where I wanted to quit, didn't want to be here anymore. But for some reason, which I've had to parse out several times, peel back all these layers, I'm still here. And that's my strength. That is my gift. And being here, now I feel like I have a purpose and a meaning. I know it's hard to fathom and I shouldn't put so much pressure on myself, but I do feel a right, a responsibility to live my life to its fullest because I got to see so many people who couldn't. For no other reason than they went to work that day. For no other reason. They were living their lives and cut short. So it puts my problems in my life into perspective. And that's just enough sometimes to get me out of that hole. Whatever it takes, whatever support you need, gravitate to that and adhere to it when you need it. So that's my choice. And I'll preach that to the end because I've seen too much. I've seen the other side. I don't want to be a part of that. And I doubt few people really would. Because it doesn't go away from me. There's a consequence. And I'm willing to pay that consequence 100-fold. And I have. And I currently am. Now what are you going to do? What am I going to do? So that's what I try to live now. Very difficult, yes. Impossible, no. Because I have a reason. So I'll leave you with this today, like I always do. Be the reason someone smiles today. And enjoy this beautiful day. Love you all. Take care.